In this video, we'll learn how to monetize costs and benefits for both market and non-market goods. Are you ready? You may be wondering what a non-market good is. Many things that we value are not traded in a formal marketplace and therefore do not have a market price. For example, environmental goods or bads, changes in our health status, or risk of death or disease, and public goods such as schools and parks. This video will introduce you to methodology used to value non-market goods for cost-benefit analysis. As you'll see in the application, valuing non-market goods is much more complex than valuing market goods because we cannot observe a market price. Our application for this section will take us to Japan. In the 1960s, drivers in Sapporo started using studded tires on their cars to prevent them from skidding on ice and snow. The studs increased transportation safety, but resulted in environmental damage and public health risk in the form of dust pollution. In the 1990s, the government enacted a law banning the use of studded tires. Our question for this section is, should studded tires be banned? We'll determine the answer by looking at a cost-benefit analysis by Asano et al. From 2002. We will take the perspective of society while performing the cost-benefit analysis, and we'll have many stakeholders, including drivers, the government, private citizens, and the environment. The next step will be to identify all of the costs and benefits that we would like to include in our analysis of the ban on studded tires. When the government eliminated the use of studded tires, drivers saw increased travel times, increased fuel costs, increased tire costs, increased traffic accidents, increased nitrous oxide emissions, and the government increased anti-icing measures in order to counteract these negative effects. Benefits of the tire ban included reduced dust from the studs, reduced noise pollution, and reduced pavement repairs. As we attempt to monetize the costs and benefits, it's important to notice that some of these costs and benefits relate to a market good, while others do not. Fuel costs, tire costs, traffic accidents, anti-icing measures, and pavement repairs are all related to the price of a market good. On the other hand, travel time, nitrous oxide emissions, dust, and noise pollution are not related to market goods. So they are non-market costs and benefits. We'll first talk about monetizing market goods because that's much simpler to do. How do we estimate, for example, the increased expense of buying tires? In the paper, the authors note the market price of studded tires relative to the market price of regular tires. You'll notice that although studded tires cost more, they have a significantly longer lifetime. When we look at the cost per 100 kilometers driven, studded tires are actually cheaper than regular tires. The authors estimate that the total amount spent on tires increased by more than $46 million due to the ban on studded tires. Note that here we have used the market price of tires to help us quantify the impact of the ban on studded tires. In essence, the problem of valuing non-market goods is the lack of information about the price or the market value of the product. How do we estimate, for example, the value of reducing dust from studded tires? One option is to ask people. In order to answer this question, surveys were mailed to 3 Sapporo neighborhoods near the main roads. Respondents were asked how much they would be willing to pay for environmental improvements to protect against dust pollution from studded tires if it became legal again. 8 payment options were listed, ranging from an equivalent of 80 cents to $25 per month. This method of non-market valuation is called stated preference. This survey was sent to elicit households' willingness to pay to mitigate the damage caused by dust pollution, which serves as an estimate of the value of eliminating dust pollution. Taking all of the responses from the survey together, the average willingness to pay was $2.70. Here we have used the stated preference of households to quantify the impact of the ban on studded tires on a non-market good, dust pollution. The stated preference method yielded an answer, a number that we could attach to the value of dust pollution. But it is not perfect. It suffers from hypothetical bias. Hypothetical bias simply means that when people are asked their willingness to pay in a hypothetical situation, they tend to overestimate their actual willingness to pay. This means that $12 million we assign to the value of eliminating dust pollution is likely to overestimate the true value. There are other methods to estimate willingness to pay, each with its own drawbacks. We don't have time to go through all of them, but I want to mention them here. Household production uses actual household expenditures on market goods that either complement or substitute for the non-market good of interest. Suppose, for example, that dust pollution caused people to have a cough. We might look at expenditures on doctor visits to address this cough, or spending on medications to reduce symptoms related to the dust pollution. Hedonic valuation looks at variation in the price of a market good as it relates to the non-market good. For example, we might find that houses close to major roads cost less than houses away from major roads due to the increase in dust and noise pollution close to the roadways. These methods have the advantage of avoiding hypothetical bias, but they may underestimate the true value of the non-market good. In some cases, it may be useful to use multiple methods of valuing a non-market good to obtain both an upper and lower bound of the true value of that good. Let's return to our application. This table shows the final estimates of costs and benefits from the ban on studded tires. As you can see, all of the costs and benefits are denominated per year, meaning that we do not need to adjust for time preference in this example as we did in the previous example. We find that the total benefits minus costs in any given year were negative $137 million, implying that the ban on studded tires was more costly than the benefit. These findings mirror the results of other studies from Finland and Alaska, and today most U.S. states allow at least some use of studded tires. Monetizing costs and benefits can be difficult, but you've now been introduced to several different methodologies that can be used to value non-market goods, each with its own drawbacks. Stated preference will tend to overestimate the value of the good, whereas household and production and hedonic valuation will tend to provide underestimates. Taken together, these methodologies can give us a plausible range of values to attach to the non-market good. But this is a good reminder to always consider the assumptions behind a cost-benefit analysis when using the results to make decisions. Next up, we'll talk about risk.